In today's episode of our photography review show, we're gonna review 67 photos from 27 photographers. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. I hope you had a great week, I hope you're having an amazing Monday, and I also hope that you're ready for another portion of photography reviews. Now, if you've never been with us before, for those who don't know me, my name is Jakub and I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex, England. Now, for the past 6 or 7 months, I've been reviewing photos from our photographic community, and it's been very popular. We receive hundreds of photos and hundreds of photographers. So for this reason, what we had to do, we had to limit the entries to 1 or 2 pictures per photographer per week. And we also each week take the show and divide it between 2 or 3 different parts based on the photography style. We usually look at the landscape photographers, mixed team photographers, and the rest of the photography styles in the last part of the show. Now, before we're gonna jump into the actual reviewing, I have 2 things to share with you. Number 1, make sure you join us in our new Facebook group. It's called Clever Photographer Academy. So lots of fun. We talk all things photography there. We review your photos throughout the week. We answer your photography questions, and we do and organize regular photography competitions. So it's a lot of fun. Make sure you head to Facebook, search for Clever Photographer Academy, and join us today. And the second thing I need to introduce you to our photographer of the week from the past episode, and that's what we're gonna do right now. And here we go with one of the most popular part of the show. It's time to look at the photographer of the week. Now, our photographer of the week this week is Sandy Stolzman, all the way from Springfield, Pennsylvania in United States. Now, she recently returned from her trip to Costa Rica, where she was after shooting wildlife photography. And I have to say that the images are absolutely incredible. We are here at her profile right now, which you can definitely check out. There is the link right here. She also has a LinkedIn profile, which you can also find right here. And then you can see her website at murals.design. So those are the kind of different ways of how you can see Sandy's work. And obviously one of the most accessible one is through her Instagram account. So looking at it just right here, a series of images which are absolutely incredible. Out of all of them, my favorites are really the one with the dark background, like this snake here. I think it's absolutely beautiful. When you look at the image, when you see the level of details, the texture, the composition, it's just beautiful. It's really well done. Again, here another one with the frog, also so beautiful. And there is more and more. Sandy herself doesn't always see herself as a wildlife photographer. She says that she likes the challenge and she likes to try different things. However, I think you can see that definitely she has a talent for wildlife photography. The captures are incredible, beautiful, and super well done. It's a mixture of great photography technique, really good eye for composition, and then very careful but powerful editing. So Sandy, congratulations. Thank you very much for sharing the work, your incredible work with us, and well done. We can't wait to see more photos from you in upcoming months and hopefully years. So that's done. We have met Sandy, and same for all of you folks. If you want to join us, if you want to become our photographer of the week, all you need to do is to head to our website cleverphotographer.com/review, and that's where you can find the upcoming dates and links where you can upload your photos, and maybe next week I'm gonna be talking about you. So that's that out of the way. Now let's jump into the reviewing. And here we are with the second part of the photography review show, and this is where we're going to be looking at the photographers with the mixed team photography. So basically these photographers send us 2 or 3 or 1 images, which is kind of mix of different photography styles, and that way we just can't kind of slot them into the specific photography style. So this week we only have 5 photographers in this category, so it's gonna be a quick part. However, let's jump straight into it. So starting with Bill Robinson, let's have a look. So we got this kind of wildlife capture of these beautiful birds on the beach, and then we have this dramatic sunset, again probably on the beach or lake somewhere. So let's look at it, let's talk about it. Let's have a look at the camera details first if we have them, and it looks like we have at least for one of them. So this one is a Nikon Coolpix P1000, and the camera settings were ISO 100, f4.5, 1/2000 of a second. Now This is a good example where, although your high shutter speed should really keep all the birds nice and sharp, and your low ISO really works for you as well to not create any additional noise. It's the f-stop and the amount of birds where really the camera is struggling to keep everything in focus. So, and this is why you have this one a little bit blurry, this one less, but obviously there will be certain point which looks a little bit like it's this one here, where you have everything in focus. However, these obviously are blurry. This was happening when you have a low number on your f-stop, obviously creating more depth between the different layers of the image. And I think this is where maybe the camera struggled a little bit. So that's why it almost looks like you maybe try to push it in some post-processing editor, maybe something like Topaz Sharpen Pro, which can do very good job to most cases, but sometimes it kind of runs into the point where it's a little bit just lost, you know. So that's pretty much what looks like it's happening here. Wherever these edits were done, there is kind of noise coming through as well, which shouldn't be there with 100 ISO anyway. So that's just kind of something to think of for the future. I know the triangle where you have to make everything work together is not easy, because obviously you need to look at your shutter speed to make sure everything is sharp. At the same time, you're trying to kind of adjust the f-stop to make sure that everything is sharp as well. ISO to try to keep it as low as possible, not to add any noise, and it's tricky. So I know it's a kind of journey, but you will get there, no problem there. So that's where we are with this image. Lovely light, a lovely scene, obviously very kind of nice, kind of capture with many different layers to it. It's just obviously that's where the f4.5 kind of let you down a little. Now on this one there is no camera details. However, we will find out where we are with it. It's always better to send it with the details, because it just kind of helps, you know, to then give you a little bit of feedback and advice for the future. This is very lovely scene, very minimalistic. I quite like that. Nice kind of shapes, again, getting kind of very kind of melt together capture. You can see you should really be able to zoom into at least this degree and see some texture and elements in it where it looks like just like a big bulb of orange, and that's where it comes from the post-processing or maybe depth of field or something like that. So just for the future. The birds are very nice. I think they create very lovely kind of filling for the space. The reflection is very nice too, and the background is very pretty too. So I think all in all that works quite well. Now sticking to this image and talking about composition, again, the reflection is lovely. I think the sky works very well too. However, first come first, this line is really kind of dominant. So you want it to be sharp, so that can be done by using maybe like geometry and using auto. That should really help us just to straighten it. Then moving on with the composition, I really like how you have this big amount of sky there. I would even crop it a little bit closer, I guess, because there's just nothing happening in this part at all. Even the reflection is a little bit broken. So I would probably go more closer to something like this, where you get something like this, and then your main subject is the sky because it's epic, and then you're adding these different elements. The three of them works very well. The reflection is really lovely, and the birds help us with the scale. So all in all, put it like this together as a composition, I think it's very pretty, very powerful. Now with this one, a few things with the composition. When it comes to the sky and the land, quite often what really works is to use the rule of thirds here as well. So either have a 1/3 of a sky on the image and 2/3 of the land, or the opposite, to have a 2/3 of the sky and 1/3 of the image. And it really depends what's happening on the sky, specifically in these kind of scenes, because if your main subject is the sky, I would leave it kind of dominant on the 2/3, if not, then 1/3. So that's where it's probably just not exactly enough. And also the space above this kind of lighthouse, if I wish there would be a little bit more, I think it would help the overall scene. Talking about, again, a kind of negative space, which is this area, doesn't add anything to the composition, doesn't add anything to the storytelling, so then just get rid of it. Anyway, the bird is kind of partly cut off, so just take him off and do something like this, and then you kind of zoom in, create impact, and also create this kind of panoramatic, very cinematic scene, which is really popular. And because we all get used to watching TVs in these formats now, and the movies and the cinemas and everything, this comes to us very natural and very close to. So just as a suggestion. Other than that, I think it's very epic. You know, you could kind of play around with different birds, making sure that they are in frame and so on. But really, it's a beautiful scene, lots happening. I love it. I think it's very, very pretty. Well done. Now, when it comes to post-processing, I think I would, there is not much to add here. I think your first focus is, first of all, making sure that they are all sharp and in focus. Second one is just the framing a little bit. So maybe kind of, I always, anytime I shoot something like this, I'm keen to overframe. So you have the kind of boundaries on the side where I know I can play with it. And I can just crop it after. I think that's one thing which is really difficult to fix after, is when you just don't have enough. I really learned to do this now, because you never know. Sometimes on a little screen, you're not 100% sure. It's good to zoom out a little bit, take a little bit more than you need, and crop it home. Then trying to be really spot on, and then missing on something. So I think it's very pretty. It's kind of warm, nice mixture. It's all about the birds. The contrast, it's lovely. It's lovely. Well done to that. Bill, and finishing on this one, it's a very, very powerful scene. I really like that. The combination with the kind of blue and orange, and then the epic sky with these kind of sticks, I think it works. It's almost something you could really kind of print on the canvas and have it above the bed or in the living room, because I think it's very nice. So all in all, Bill, thank you very much. I hope few of these tips will be helpful for you. Stay safe and send us more images in the future. Moving on, the next photographer, we have Dennis. Dennis, we have 2 images from you. So one, again, kind of macro, and one almost like a scene from a park or something like that. So Dennis, just as a reminder, and I kind of kept repeating it for quite some time now, we try to stick away from using any frame, signature, or watermarks on a picture, from a very simple reason, and that's nothing what I created. It's lots of my colleagues who do photography review. What you want from me and from us in overall is to really focus on your art, on your photo, rather than focusing on the frame. Now, as soon as I look at it, well, first of all, human eye gets immediately attracted by the brightest and whitest spot of the image. So the first thing you get really overwhelmed by is the frame. And then you start to, when it comes to signatures, you try to start to look at the font, and you wonder why that font and why that color. So it's really, really much easier when you don't include them. I know they look pretty when you kind of share them around and so on, but for the purpose of the review, it's much easier when the image looks just like this, because then we're focusing on the art. And that goes for all of you, not just for Dennis. So Dennis, looking at this one, macro photography, very basic, but very powerful. Everything is there, the depth of the field, the blur at the back, but still blur where you can recognize the back, so creating quite nice scene, very natural-like. Now you have the main subject, which is this kind of grass, which is very lovely. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. Either you can kind of point it at these thirds here, or if you want to make it as a main subject, I would probably center it in the middle. So then you get something like this. Main subject, it should be in the center. So that's where I would go. When it comes to the technical details, let's see if we have them here. This is a Canon Rebel T6, ISO 100, 18mm, f 5.6, 1/200 of a second. Now, ISO is perfect. At 5.6, creating this blur. If you would have gone a little bit lower, you would get, obviously, you would get even more blur at the back. But I think this is just enough. 1/200 of a second means that everything is nice and sharp. The focus is very nice, including the whole flower all the way up to here, and then it kind of fades away, which I think looks very cool. If 18mm is not your most typical length you would use for macro photography of this type, but it works, and I think it's quite nice. And that's about it. So I would leave it. The light is quite nice as well. Touch of harshness in it, but not as bad, and I think it's quite cool. Now, moving on this one, I'm not 100% sure what the idea is, simply because you kind of need to look at it and you need to get the idea of what you're trying to show. What's the message? What's the storytelling here? And for me, this is just 2 lights, probably in park or it's your garden. And then there is this tree in front, which is a little bit out of focus, so creating depth of field. But, just if I need to think about it, and if I need to kind of take a time, and then, human loses the attention very quickly, and, So if maybe you would shoot the path and have some kind of leading line and have the lights alongside it, I would understand that. If there was maybe something happening around, I would understand that. Just in overall, I'm not 100% sure here. Well, same camera, I believe, same lens, ISO 800, 34mm f4.5, 2 second here. So ISO 800 is quite high. There is no hiding from it. Depending what your camera thinks about it, it adds additional noise or not. There is a little bit, nothing crazy, but little bit. Then 4.5, obviously that's why you have the softness here, because the focus was at the background, so that works quite well. 2 second, I don't know if you handheld on tripod. If you were on tripod, you can see the sharpness. The sharpness looks like this is fine, but when you zoom in, you see how it's not really sharp. I'm trying to kind of find the point where the camera would zoom, but it looks more like there was a little bit, tiny bit of shake when you took the picture. And that's why we don't really get this 100% sharpness. We also get this kind of points, which are maybe like a lens flares or something like this. This one specifically I'm not sure, it looks like there's a piece of cut out. But that's from the technical part. The glow is quite nice. The color is quite nice. The kind of dark around is quite nice. But that's about it. So now when we talk about composition, I already pretty much covered it on the beginning of this image. Just what I'm missing mostly is the clear message and clear idea of what is it you're trying to show. As a technical composition, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it other than that they're kind of falling on a side a little bit. So that, the depth works here and the glow is there and it's the right time of the day. But it's just, compared to your usual subjects or what you sent us before, this is not the most strongest composition. Now, talking about this one, very natural colors. Again, when you take the frame away and maybe center it, that's very much artistic choice, what you want to do. Little offset also works very nice when you do maybe like something like this. Or you could put it in that third, again, whatever you want to do. What could look really nice also is just a simple square crop to maybe get something like this. Just maybe a little bit more. That would be also just as powerful. You get something like this. You can also put it in the center again with the square crop and just kind of really play around with it. I think all in all, it's a very simple idea, but really well executed and very pretty. Again, almost it could go on a cover of a magazine. These kind of things, when they are simply done and work, they really work. So for post-processing, I already covered the cropping here, just a little bit more of the vignetting, and you're all good there. On this one, not much, the white balance is nice, it's warm. Obviously, there is kind of shadows around, which is quite nicely done. Again, I would probably tilt it around just a little bit if I would have an opportunity. I don't know what exactly would be the right kind of shape, maybe something like this, just to keep an eye on it. Dennis, thank you very much for sending your photos. It's always a pleasure to review them. You take care, stay safe, and send us more pictures in the future. Moving on, next photographer, we have a Donna. Donna, this is very unusual type of photography for you. However, I love it. I have to say, I watch it. I look at the pictures already during the week, and I was kind of wondering first what it is. And this is very much storytelling, which is something, again, very, very lovely, very well done together. Part of series, which I always like. I think that's really something what photographers don't use anywhere near enough, even on Instagram and so on. I think there is a really big strength in storytelling. Same subject, 4 or 5 pictures, showing it from different angles, different things. It just works. So very well. So let's quickly look at the settings. No settings. That's a shame. So let's just look at from what we have here. Obviously, sharpness on the face, sharpness on the hands. Still very much visible what the person is doing. It's quite cool. Quite nice light, obviously black and white. So it's a little bit forgiving at some points, but the kind of highlights and shadow, I think, works. The exposure works. There's a little bit of grain in it, which you maybe added in post-processing, so I don't want to kind of bring it down. So like this works very nice. This is lovely as well. The hand really creating shape. The texture on the hands also really pushed here. And then the glow in the center of the image, very cool, very, very cool. I have to say, it's just something a little bit different, something different than what we see all the time. When it comes to composition, moving in with this image, this is great. Again, the shape creating a frame, directing the viewer in this area with the kind of glow around it, very cool. And this, again, the hands and the face creating like a V shape, pointing against into the brighter area of the image, and just very well done. It just seems this lamp for me is a little bit too defined. I don't know what it is on it. Maybe just because it's a bit too sharp, but still kind of obviously bringing the light down. Excellent thing. And then in post-processing, I think the black and white is very well done. I think it's a little bit over-textured for me, but that's very much, again, artistic decision, which I will not take away. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the contrast is quite nice. It's very natural. You didn't kind of try to make it any pretty in a way of, the kind of softening and stuff like that. You kept it very natural and very powerful. And thank you for that. I think it's very, very well done. Very interesting two captures. Well executed. I wonder if there was more pictures from this series, because it would be interesting to see. Donna, take care. Stay safe. Thank you so much for sharing your images with us, and hope to see more of them in the near future. Moving on, the next photographer, we have a Terry. Terry, I have actually kept all your images, even though we do only 1 or 2 images per week. And it's simply because I want to actually show them to the other photographers. Now, some of them are simple, and yes, there could be stuff done to this, and we can talk about it in a review. However, some of the others, when we move to, for example, something like this, I thought are quite epic. This is very, very pretty work with the lighthouse and with the poppies coming up. There was another one I really loved. This one I loved, kind of this lighthouse popping out of the sea with the birds. Also very, very pretty. This one, probably my favorite one. Very powerful, very interesting composite put together. Oh, just lovely, lovely. The combination of almost kind of monotone, just with the red color and the flag. Beautiful as well. And there was one more. I liked this one. This one was also very, very well done. Beautiful photo editing, beautiful thing put together. So either way you done it, hand down, head down, this is beautiful. Well done. Just to kind of give you some advice at least, we can just talk about the seascape here. So talking about this one, looking at the kind of camera setting, Nikon D7000, ISO 100, 80mm f8, 1/30th of a second. So talking about setting itself, I think you're quite spot on. ISO 100, making sure that everything is nice and clean, no additional color or grain noise. 18mm is very white, but obviously works for this scene. f8 is perfect, everything is nice and sharp. And 1/30th of a second, underexposing everything just a touch to bring out the lights and making sure that all the details in the sky and in the foreground are in. So very well done there. Now, when we talk about composition on this one, I think one thing you want to make sure very much with this scene is to make sure that everything is nice and straight, which can be done here in a geometry, but just by using the auto. So that kind of sorts this a little bit. I would also crop it a little bit tighter. What I really like to do is, let's just switch this off. I really like when the kind of reflection like this is in the center of the image, simply because it creates really powerful composition. I think it's very balanced, very natural, and very powerful. So that's what I would do. Just kind of keeping an eye on the top of the house here, making sure that it's all good. So other than that, as a composition, it's very lovely. The glow, the kind of the colors, the contrast, the scale is very nice. Obviously, the people creating everything. The light is very pretty with the glow. Just all in all, very well done. Which brings us to the post-processing. I think one thing which stands out to me is your chromatic aberration. I mean, the green here is super full on. Usually it's green and purple. So you have green here and you have a purple here. Now, Lightroom used to have this remove chromatic aberration tool, which is still here, by the way. And you would just kind of check it, and it would most of the time do terrible job at removing it. And as you can see, it's on now, and it pretty much doesn't remove anything. And now with the new Lightroom and new Photoshop Camera Raw, there's this difference option, which is super cool. All you need to do is to click on the two colors. So let's start with the green. So we click on the green, we click on this little picker, and then we want to find the most saturated part of the green. So let's say this one, and you just click. So that didn't help. So this right here. Now you can obviously play with it a little bit more to kind of make sure that it's all done. You maybe want to make sure that you take in this one as well, and you see the green is gone. And you pretty much do exactly the same with the purple. So let's zoom in again. I hope you can see the purple here. And you just click on purple, you click on the picker, and just pretty much click on the area, and that's it. So again, with green, there's a little bit more here, and that's it. So really easy to fix. Still have some here. And quick and very powerful way to remove the chromatic aberration. Other than that, double check your white balance. Just kind of seems like there's a fair bit of green popping in, if I'm right or wrong. So maybe just something like this would be a little bit more natural for me. Obviously, vignette would be something nice to do. Little bit of maybe local adjustment is also always a good idea with something like this, I think. Just kind of highlighting this. Also, you can really help to the reflection when you kind of brush around it a little bit. And that's it. So Terry, I hope this was helpful, at least for this image. Other than that, your compositions there, they are beautiful. Well done. Congratulations on your work. And thank you very much for sharing it with us. Which brings us to the last photographer from the mixed team photographic kind. We have Zdenek back with us. And we have some lions this week, so back to animals. Thank you very much. And then we have more of the landscape from South Africa. So let's have a look at it. Let's see here. Again, I believe we should think with the same camera, and this time with the same lens as well. So Canon 600D lens, 55 to 250 millimeters. And talking about this image, we are on ISO 100. 194 millimeters, f8, 1/500 of a second. So ISO 100, spot on. f8 for this scene, obviously everything nice, sharp, and in focus. And 1/500 of a second, it looks like daylight, so obviously no complicated lighting condition here, and well captured. Now the details look good. The sky is nice with lovely details on it and lovely texture on it. And I think technically it's quite well handled. Now, let's move on this one with it. So while we here, ISO 250, 163 millimeters, so quite nice and zoomed in. f5.6, creating quite nice depth. Obviously, I think looking at them, not that much, looking at them, one of them seems to be a little bit sharper, and I can't really decide if it's this one or this one. But not very visible, it's just for my eye. 1/250th of a second is a good choice and a good example of how you don't have to overkill the shutter speed for wildlife photography. I mean, in the last 6 months, how many photos I saw with 2,000 of a second, 2,500 of a second. That's so fast that no animal will outdo that. And obviously with doing that, then you push the ISO, and you have to push the f-stop, and it's no need for it. I think 1/250, specifically when the animals are not moving too fast, is more than enough, and a good example of that. Now, sticking with that, let's talk about the composition. And right away, one thing I wish there is more space here. Again, we're talking about super wild animals living in the nature. You want the extra space in front of them to make it even more impactful. I think that's always a good thing to do. So if there would be more space here, it would be great. Other than that, obviously, lovely scene. They kind of walking. They don't do much, but still lovely. They all there. They facing you. One facing, one walking away. So very well done. Now, talking about this one, this is a great composition actually, because it's very simple but very powerful. Now, imagine there would be sky behind it. You could kind of have it bigger. This would be perfect location for night photography. You could set up yourself there, maybe have a little light which you could illuminate a tree or not, or have kind of come earlier in the evening for a blue hour and just kind of place the tree against a kind of early evening sky with some stars on it. I think it would be epic. So brilliant, really love it. Not, just creating very nice scene here, put together very well, very balanced, very cool. Which brings me to post-processing, and really with this kind of light, when everything is a little bit flat, there is not much more you could do to it. You could turn it to black and white. Obviously, always good to keep an eye on your white balance, but you were quite good there. Push a little bit the vibrance, and I mean the effects and the vignette goes always a long way to do something this. And then you could do a little bit of dodge and burn, but I think like this, it's very cool. It's very simple, but sometimes I think we overdo things, and in this case, I would just leave it. Now with these, I think we bit on a green side here, so we can have a look at the white balance. And I would definitely make it cooler, but I would push the pink just a little bit and maybe the yellow not too much. I wonder if we would crop it a little bit more to say something like 16:9, which obviously we can't, but at least close to that. If it would kind of help to increase the space in front of them. I think just a little bit, so once you kind of bring the top and bottom down, suddenly this space starting to be a little bit more significant, and I think that's helpful. And then really just the usual here, a little bit of vignette and then a little bit of the local adjustments. So so you can just kind of add a little bit more contrast to them. I think add a little bit of texture to them and maybe a little bit of clarity, and then creating another mask with a brush, and that's where you're going to play really with the additional contrast. So something like this and this and this, maybe thing like this, just creating more contrast on them and playing around with it. So that's about it, Zdenek. Thank you for sharing some animal pictures. I always love to see them. I hope you're staying safe wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and I already can't wait to see more pictures from you next week. And obviously the same goes for all of you folks. Thank you so much for joining us this week. It's always a pleasure to review your images. If you want to join us already for the next episode, all you need to do is to head to our website, cleverphotographer.com/review. That's where you can find all the upcoming episodes, the links, and the information about how you can get your photos reviewed just like the rest of the photographers here today. Take care, stay safe, and keep shooting.